What do you think the world looks like 10 years from now? In other words, what kind of an economy we'll be in? You know, we're already entering a spaceless economy. I feel like COVID sort of sped things up in people's minds about, you know, wow, I can recruit people more than a 25-mile radius away from where our office building is now. But what do you think, if you were to take a peek and be the Nostradamus of the future, what do you think? Are we going to have, you know, autonomous vehicles, and, you know, is VR going to be a big deal? Like, what do you see?
So it's interesting, Ed. I'm going to be totally honest. I haven't the slightest idea. And I quite frankly do not spend a lot of time thinking about trying to imagine what the world's going to look like. I do spend a tremendous amount of time ensuring that I and the companies that I work with are on a footing that they can react to whatever comes. It's a different thing.
How do you do that?
Well, it used to be, you act like a startup. I mean, we talked about Blockbuster earlier, and they had these established systems, and that happens so naturally in a company because we all start out the same. We have 5 people doing the work of 50. Everyone does what's needed that day. Everyone does not need to communicate. There are no expense reports. There's no status reports. Everyone's just scrambling. And then, of course, you get some success, and you begin going, we really should have some process. And you begin saying, oh, wow, I can see the next 3 or 4 quarters in a row. And you begin bringing in people who are efficiency experts, who work on shaving off some supply chain time or increasing margins. And those people are amazing at that. I mean, things like they can do things I can't even imagine doing. But what they're not good at is reacting and changing their job and changing their process overnight when the conditions change. And what COVID has shown us is that even companies which thought they had nice, predictable, nice, scalable business models, not so fast, Mr. Gym owner. Not so fast, Mr. Restaurant owner. Not so fast, Mr. Theater chain. And the companies who've been able to weather that and survive that are the ones who said, okay, quick, how do we figure out an entirely new world? And a lot of companies learned it the hard way. And so what I'm really doing is making sure that the people that I work with and I can help have set up their culture. Mostly it's a cultural thing to recognize that they have to do things differently, that they're going to have to react quickly, they're going to have to respond. And they put themselves in place that no matter what the world brings, they're ready for it. And we can make short-term predictions, but the more fundamental thing is a cultural shift. And COVID has been very, very good. It's been bad in a million ways, but very, very good in the fact that it's forced every company to recognize it's going to have to behave like a startup.
Yeah, by the way, and again with your reactions, I'm really glad you kind of answered it that way, because I've been getting asked that on about every interview that I do. and I can honestly say that I don't know either. I have some insights as to what won't work going forward, but I'm not completely sure what will work going forward. And I appreciate your honesty about that too. And I want to keep my companies nimble and flexible. You use the term of thinking like a startup, and that's why I wish some of the people on the board of one of my companies I'm involved with will listen to this, because there's all this legacy thinking. We used to do it this way. We've always done that. And I'm thinking those are death words for most companies right now. I'm curious. You've had this amazing career that you're evolving every day. You're one of the most sought after trainers and speakers and inspirers on the planet. That's obvious why, listening to you today and seeing you. And you've been a part of birthing one of the most influential companies of the last decade. You've done great work on the environment. You know, you're a really remarkable man. I'm curious, all the sacrifice, and I'd like you to be completely transparent here. All the sacrifice, all those difficult moments, all the struggle, the financial hardship, the stress that was caused on you. Was it all it's cracked up to be? Being where you are now, was it all what you dreamed it would be? Has it been more, less? Was it all it's cracked up to be?
Oh, it's been fantastic. I am the luckiest guy in the world. And not maybe for the reasons you think. It is certainly, I'm not lucky because of the success, so to speak, because I define my success as very, very differently. Because what I've always thought, or at least I have since my early 30s, is that if I could figure out what I was good at, and I could spend my life doing that and doing things I really enjoyed doing, that was success. And I was extremely lucky that I fell into both of those things pretty early in my life. And this entrepreneurship thing is something that I love doing. I love coming to work. It is not a job to me. And here's the immodest part, I guess. I'm pretty good at it. I've got a pretty good sense of early stage problems, of the triage, of the focus, of the leadership that is required there. But I get to do it. And to have spent my whole life doing that has been incredibly rewarding and worth every bit of the stress and heartache that it comes to. And what's amazing is that, you know, I left Netflix more than 15 years ago. And I did somewhat personally painfully because I loved that company. I mean, that was my baby. But it had changed, and not in a bad way. It had grown up. It now had big company problems. And these were not the problems that I was particularly good at solving. And I realized that even though I loved the company, I didn't necessarily love the things I was doing every day. And that if I was truly successful, I should be doing the things that I'm good at and that I love. And that meant leaving Netflix to get back to the early stage stuff. And now I get that. We sold I started a company after Netflix, which we sold, about a year and a half ago. God, time flies. But, I get to spend my time now working with other early stage companies, mentoring early stage entrepreneurs. I mean, it's what the podcast is about. It is me on the phone or on Zoom with entrepreneurs doing the sort of things you and I talked about today, giving the kind of advice that I gave to the young woman who wanted to do the clothing company, doing the advice about the scaling, and talking about loneliness and talking about all the problems that people who are trying to turn their ideas and their dreams into realities face. And believe me, to get to do that every day, I'm an incredibly lucky guy.
Yeah, you're incredibly gifted at doing it as well. And there are great entrepreneurs who aren't so great at teaching it or articulating it. And the combination of the two is a rare set of skills that you have. And it's why I wanted you here today. And
you have a shared mission, Ed. I think that's why I was so eager to come on with you. I know that you feel that same way. Is that kind of what is our obligation, is to take all these things we have learned, that these things are not impossible, that you don't need to be a Superman to do it. It's just that it's starting and it's having the self-confidence and it's recognizing it's not always easy. Yep. And I'm so appreciative to have people like yourself and the other people out there who are trying to inspire people to get going.
Thank you. And I like that I like to listen to people who have some track record when they're teaching me. In other words, when I go to the gym, I'd like to be trained by somebody who is fit. If I'm going to be coached by an entrepreneur, I'd like it to be somebody who can, success leaves clues. And one of the things that this space, so to speak, I think needs a little bit more of is actual functioning entrepreneurs who have actually done something, rather than teaching somebody things maybe they've not applied in their life. And you can feel the difference, candidly. You can feel the difference when someone who's done something, who's rooted in their philosophies, even if two people even disagree subtly on something, that there's a level of influence and certainty that having done something only gives you through real experience. And obviously you've had multiple incredible experience. Okay, last question. By the way, thank you in advance, because this is 45 or 50 minutes that just literally flew by, and we could go 2 hours, which means probably I'm going to bring you back. If you're willing to do that.
Happy to.
Before we end, because always at the end we do this, make sure you follow Mark on social media, and we'll put his tagline up there on the YouTube if you're watching it. And obviously That Will Never Work is the one on Instagram. Is that the same on Twitter, or is it your name on Twitter?
It's MB Randolph on Twitter, and the podcast is also called That Will Never Work.
Okay. The guys, that you're gonna want to check that podcast out. Last thing I want to ask you, and this is just a generic question. I'm an entrepreneur out here. I'm listening today. I'm hurting. COVID got me a little bit. I'm scared. I'm at that point. Maybe you were on the flight back, but probably not even that far along. I might be the dude in the stairwell, and I only got 2 people there. I left the job that my family thought I shouldn't have left. The 401k's dwindled. My spouse is not real happy with where I'm at right now. And I run into you at Starbucks and I go, oh my gosh, Mark, is there any words of wisdom you might give me? What would you say to that person who's feeling those things right now?
I tell them two things. I go, I've been where you've been. I know how painful this is and the struggle. And so sometimes it appears that this mountain in front of you is unclimbable. But in all sincerity, when I look back at the times that I thought were the best, it tends to be the times that it was the hardest. And I'm sincere about that. Most of my great memories are banding together with other people and saying, oh my gosh, we are in deep. How are we going to dig out? That's what I remember as being the best parts of Netflix, the best parts of Looker, the best parts of the other companies I've done. And then the second thing I'd say is that when everyone tells you that will never work, the reality is that most of the time they're going to be right, but not always. And that I can speak from personal experience that sometimes it actually does work.
I can second that. And I think that's incredible. I very rarely, brother, I'm doing one of these interviews. I just sit back and kind of bask in the glow. Just to be honest with you, like there's just so much truth there. And as somebody who's walked, you know, a somewhat similar journey, I guess, to some extent, I just really respect you.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for you.
Thank you, Ed.
For being willing to share yourself with my precious community here. And this was one of those shows, brother, that this made a difference in people's lives today. So I just want to acknowledge you for doing that today and just for being who you are. So thank you so much, Mark, for being here today.
Real pleasure being on with you, Ed. And thanks again for not just the opportunity to speak with you, but also for all the stuff you do.
Thank you, brother. Everybody, I know this made a difference for you. Just please share the show. Share this with people that need to hear it. And I just want to thank all of you for listening. I don't thank all of you enough. And for all of your support allows me to bring you world-class, like on the spinning earth, most unique and special people, just like I did with Mark today. So thank all of you. God bless you. Max out. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. If you'd like more, click the videos right here. They're exactly what you need to see next. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and become a part of the Max Out community. And tell me what you think about the videos in the comments below. I read all of them every week, and I select winners that get all kinds of prizes, gear, coaching calls with me. Make a comment.